Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McDonough? Donald?
Happens all the time, McDonough and McDonald.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with
I know,
every word.
I know. So, Mayor, thank you, and we know it's a long road, and we're not going to get there overnight, but we're trying to move things along, and you know, you're doing all the right things. I know you've streamlined a lot within City Hall with efficiencies. Reaching out, I know there's a shared services effort going on with communications with Troy and Albany County and Rensselaer County, which is important. You were one of the first to go flying into the Fiscal Restructuring Board, which, oddly enough, it was good. It provided some money, some gap money. But same token, after reading the report, I had to read it 2 or 3 times. It's almost as if they put their hands up saying, you've got a gap and you got to figure it out and you need to generate more revenue. And unlike our 5-hour guest this morning, which has their own way of generating revenue through the personal income tax, that's not an option to Albany, nor would I recommend we consider that either. The tax-exempt property status is a large concern, and as you know, I represent 5 cities, fortunate enough to share Albany with Pat, and you know, Troy, Rensselaer, and Albany are 1, 2, and 4, I think, in regards to percentage of tax-exempt property overall. You mentioned 60%, but I'm curious, because we are the home of state government, what is the percent of that property that is tax-exempt that's used for state purposes, to conduct state government?
Roughly 30% of the property in the state, in the city, is owned by the state.
Okay. You talked about a lot of the developments that are moving forward in the city. Some, of course, are another tax-exempt entity like the Capitol Center, but we know we'll see great growth with bed tax and with sales tax and life in downtown Albany. And I know there's a lot of, I think there's over 400 residential units coming online in the downtown area as well. Do you have any idea what the projection is for what that revenue might be?
You know, we're looking out 3 and 5 years, and we anticipate that we're going to have to enter into pilot agreements for the foreseeable future, but that's a new revenue stream for the city. So, you know, we need to build a bridge. This isn't a one-time ask, and that's something that I want to stress. I don't want people to be surprised. This is a structural deficit, and we are asking for 5 years to grow our way out of it. But when we look at what the opportunities are, both at the Harriman campus and in our warehouse district and at the former convention center site, we think that through a combination of cost-cutting measures, fees for services, and growth in our tax base, that we will be able to create that bridge and get to a sustainable city budget. But it will take time. It will absolutely take time.
Speaking of the bridge, you speak of the bridge, the $12.5 million bridge. And, you know, you have included that in this year's budget. And at the same token, right now we're going through the process of, at least we're trying to shepherd it through to make sure that it's there. And I agree with you. And I want to say this, I commend you on the fact that you found something unique that reflects really the capital city of Albany, or really the capital of the world, as we say around here. And at the same token, it's something that you recognize that as greater growth goes on the 19A property, as more property comes on the tax rolls, that you responsibly would say the state should be able to ease off its burden. And most mayors don't usually do that. I know I've been here for 13 years. I was groveling all the time. So I commend you for at least saying, here, we want to be part of it. We need a solution, and we also realize that we can't be on your aid the rest of our lives. I guess the question that comes up is, what if the $12.5 million doesn't show up?
As I've said,
and I will say this, it's just part of your presentation, but it's bare worth repeating. You know, I only live 8 miles up the road. I'm in Albany just as much as I'm in Cohoes, and I'm in the other communities as well. And I've been in a lot of houses here in the community, and you're absolutely right. Putting the burden on the backs of the taxpayers, it's not going to work. I've come up with the conclusion that the taxpayers here in Albany are exhausted.
well, the challenge is that what it's really created is, you know, we have neighborhoods where we have people who are able to afford the property tax bill, and we have neighborhoods that are inundated with low-income housing. And there's really not a lot of room for people who are in the middle here. And so that's a real challenge for the city. If we are not able to bridge this gap, then, the challenge for the city of Albany is that our entire non-union payroll is less than $12 million. So I'll say that again, our entire non-union payroll is less than $12 million. So we're talking about significant cuts. It's about 7.5%. If we were to go 7.5% across the board, it means that we would probably, in effect, have to disband our neighborhood engagement units because we would only have enough police officers left to respond to 911 calls. We would, in all likelihood, have to disband EMT services, and we are the front line of healthcare for the poorest people living in our community. Notwithstanding the healthcare reforms that have occurred, we are still the front line. We are the people that the poorest people in our community call first to deliver those EMT services. And our firefighters are out there when somebody has an earache, and we are assisting families in getting to the emergency room because they can't afford the cab fare. So that's just the reality. And so we're looking at potentially having to disband those EMT services because of the cuts that we would have to make. And the other travesty of that is that we leave money on the table. We received a SAFER grant from the federal government that's paying for 15 firefighters for the next 2 years. So not only would we have to cut those 15 and leave that SAFER grant money on the table, we'd have to go deeper in order to actually realize savings. The same thing with our police officers. We'd have to lay off more police officers because we received a COPS grant for some of those police officers, so we'd have to pay the feds back $3 million. For the first one that we lay off. So after we pay back that $3 million, we then would have to go even deeper and lay off more personnel. We're talking about eliminating a summer youth employment program that employs 1,200 of our lowest income children and provides them with extraordinary job experience and opportunity. Under my administration, we have completely transformed that program so that on the fifth day of the week, young people transition. They either spend time learning about career pathways and financial planning. They learn about how to get into college, and they visit a college campus. They spend a day with our police officers and learn about knowing their rights from a outside party, our Center for Social Justice, that provides them with that training. So it's really been a very substantive program aimed at giving young people the skills that they need to succeed. We would not be able to provide that. We would not be able to hire lifeguards, so we would have to close our pools and our parks. We have gone through and looked at what we would have to do to get to $12.5 million. And what you're left with is not a place where people would want to invest and where people would want to live. We are laser focused on being as effective and efficient as we can be, but it would be a very devastating impact to the city of Albany.
Not only the city of Albany, but the state capital as well. So.
Well, I think that it would really hurt the region, and we do have so much that is going for us. And I view this as an investment in the success that is here and a recognition that, for reasons that predate all of us, and maybe for lack of a sense of urgency on the part of the city, because in past years when the pension bill was $1 million, $1.5 million, we were able to, be able to have years where even with a spin-up, we were able to have surpluses. With a pension bill now that is $16 to $17 million and has been since 2008, 2009, we're no longer able to do that.
My final comment, and you don't need to respond if you don't want, is in the governor's proposal, he rightfully proposes a $25 million investment in the poverty initiative. And he chose 10 cities throughout the state of New York. I'm sure it wasn't chosen for any reason but merit, and it's not a merit we all subscribe to, but it's a merit nonetheless. It's unique that the city of Troy and the city of Albany both have been chosen, which is ironic because I know as long as Member Fahey and I have been here for the 3 short years, it seems like 20, that we've always been told, well, Albany gets all the jobs, Albany gets all the jobs, Albany gets all the jobs. Well, I find it challenging. If we're getting all the jobs, you would think we wouldn't have to worry about having a high percentage of poverty, and we're in that select group of 10. I just find that to be something that actually speaks more to the issue that we're facing here in the city.
I think people are surprised to learn that the poverty rate in Albany is approaching 26%, that more than a third of our children live in poverty, and that fewer than 50% of our children are graduating from high school. That number went up. It went up across the state. So we're having more success. I believe that actually last year we were above that 50% mark. But we face the same challenges as other struggling cities, but we, like those cities, are tough. We're working on it. We have a deep commitment to it, and we need to focus on advocating for the resources that we need in order to accomplish it. And again, I believe that all of the mayors that I work with and that I talk to across upstate New York have done a remarkable job and are doing remarkable things. And we shouldn't be pitted against, and arguing, about fairness. I think we need to just take a stark look at what the challenges are and, make a commitment and having an urban agenda, because these urban centers really are the future of our state. Young people are deciding where they're going to live, and then they figure out what they're going to do. When we talk to employers, and I'm sure other mayors say it, they are looking for a place where they can imagine the best and the brightest wanting to come and live. And the cities of upstate New York, whether it be Albany or Syracuse or Rochester or Troy, we have the bones. We have beautiful architecture. We have all of the things that upstate cities need: great universities, and institutions of higher learning, great health care. And so we need to invest and build on that. I think this is a really exciting and optimistic time in New York State.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman McDonald. And now we will ask Assemblywoman Fahey to say a few
I'm sorry, we have
words.
a senator.
Sorry.
Sorry, Senator John DeFrancisco from Syracuse.
First, I was watching you on TV last night with the clips from the hearing or whatever it was. I got to commend you for maintaining your patience, because if it was me, I know I wouldn't have. That was a very difficult thing to do. One quick question. You said you had 1,200 summer jobs that you employ people in the city, correct? What do you pay them now?
We pay the 14 and 15-year-olds, I believe it's $6.50 an hour, and then if they're 16, we pay the minimum wage.
Okay, and the minimum wage now is $9?
I believe that's what we've budgeted. Yes, it's gone up to $9.
In view of your dire financial situation, as with all the mayors, does that mean if the minimum wage goes up, you'll have to employ less people?
We've been able, through federal funding that helps to fund some of those positions, particularly for the older children, to maintain the numbers. The numbers go up and down every year. Our goal actually is to really focus on the 14 and 15-year-olds and be doing such a good job in the experience that they get, that our 16-year-olds get hired by the private sector. And we're working really hard with private sector employers in the area to make sure that we're providing the training that they expect,
Mayor,
so that they can hire them.
let me just cut you off.
Yep.
I see what you're saying, but whether it's the private sector employers or the public employers, if there's so many dollars, they're set for summer jobs, entry-level jobs, so people can learn how to work. How do you get around not eliminating some jobs, private or public, if you got the same amount of money to deal with?
Well, we have, in the projections that we have created, built in the escalation to the $15 an hour minimum wage that the governor has proposed. And, the total cost to the city of Albany is in the neighborhood, I hope I'm not misquoting this, I think it's about $2 million ultimately. And again, that assumes that we keep the numbers the same. So we have to look at opportunities to reduce that cost. Our summer youth employment program only lasts 6 weeks. That's not the largest driver of it, but I think that, if we can see an increase in minimum wage and move more of our young people into private sector jobs, that would be ideal. We have, as I said, almost 26% poverty rate. So as a mayor, I know we can debate whether the minimum wage will
No, I'm not-
have the
I'm
results
not-
we're asking for, but I think that would be a positive impact in the
I'm
city
about
overall.
ready to take back my compliment because this doesn't make too much sense. But the fact of the matter is, you've built it in, so instead of $12.5 million deficit, you may have a little higher deficit.
We
if
know
you
that
keep the
that's a
same amount of
bogey
people.
that we have to hit. We've got to find cost savings to be able to offset that increase.
Okay, last point. What cost savings other than less employees can you do?
Well, we have some work to do on our workers' compensation costs. We can do a better job of monitoring that within the city of Albany and set some targets for our employees. We can also do better, I think, in our health insurance costs. And we were successful in interest arbitration to now have all of our firefighters contributing towards health insurance. And so we've created a union management committee to look at how we can drive down those insurance costs. And our firefighters now have a stake in that. If we can drive down premiums and look at cost-saving measures, they're going to benefit from that. So I think that we've got room on health insurance. We have room with respect to using and implementing changes in technology. I have an employee who we are being funded through the Bloomberg Philanthropies to attend the Denver Peak Academy, which is a program that was funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies in Denver, where employees identified $23 million in savings since 2013. So those are the types of efforts that we need to undertake in order to be able to find savings and efficiencies.
That sounds great, and it'll reduce the $12.5 million you need from Albany then as well.
We know that we're going to need to find ways, and as I said, we're looking for a bridge, and I agree.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Fahey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mayor, for your always compelling testimony. Obviously, it's very, very sobering, but I also appreciate that you have a number of encouraging initiatives underway, including the Capitol Center or the Convention Center, along with a host of other programs underway. And I just want to echo some of the comments you made earlier and that my colleague, Mr. McDonald, made, and that is that about the region and the impact that Albany has on the region. I represent 3 terrific towns as well as the city of Albany. In fact, a few that you highlighted here in your testimony. And in each of those towns, I'm often comparing property tax rates because I live here in Albany and I pay those property taxes. I think the only one that I ever find that gives me anything close to a match is the city of Schenectady. And even among a number of folks in the towns I represent, they do recognize that if the core of this region, along with the core throughout upstate of our key cities upstate, when the core suffers, the entire region suffers. So I do recognize that while there's much encouraging news, there are tremendous challenges, and I appreciate the work that you have done, but as Assemblyman McDonald said, we recognize this is quite a challenge on the $12 million. Can we talk a little bit about where you see some of that turnaround, as you've said, over the next few years and when you see it? For instance, you made reference to Harriman. I know this body agreed with the governor's proposal last year to put tens of millions into development up at Harriman, and that an estimated 30 acres is supposed to come online to be privately developed. Do you have a better sense, any updates on that timeline on when we might begin to see some revenues into the city as that is privatized?
We've been working with the state to make sure that they have the information that they need about the infrastructure underneath the Harriman campus and what the needs would be in order to build it out. We were successful in getting planning funding through the REDC to really focus on that western part of the city so that we can support and have the infrastructure to support growth both at the University at Albany, at SUNY Poly, and at the Harriman campus. So they are have been requesting information, and it's my understanding that they are developing an RFP. And, when you talk about the investment up there, it's a really great example, because if that investment had occurred anywhere else but in the city of Albany, it would have generated a pilot payment. So under 19A, if you take property in a municipality and use it for state purposes, there is a pilot that is paid based on a percentage of the work that was done, the construction costs associated with that. And so that is why I think that 19A provides an opportunity for the state and for this body to really look at what the impact is in the city of Albany of this investment, because of the amount of land in the city that the state owns.
I actually appreciate you pointing that out on Harriman campus, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there have been longstanding bills that my predecessor had and that I've carried for pilot payments on Harriman, which is hundreds of acres. There's about 30 that are to be developed privately. But my recollection is that would generate about $11 million were we to get a 19A payment or a pilot payment on that?
Well, and actually that number would go up a little bit because of the recent investment that has occurred out there. So that has increased the value of that property. And again, the elegance of doing this in 19A is that we have agreed, and I think that it does make us unique in saying that as the Harriman campus or as other property that's owned by the state becomes privately developed, that should be subtracted from anything that the state should be responsible for. If we're able to get that revenue through private development, then we are then more aligned in our interests with the state.
Okay, very helpful. And any other revenue generators that you could note would also be of help. With regard to the previous question from Senator DeFrancisco, I may have misunderstood, or it might be helpful, the $2 million that you mentioned would be a shortfall, I guess, if you will, with the minimum wage proposals. Is there a breakout?
No, what we've done is cost out what there's an escalator that the governor has proposed with respect to minimum wage. So out at the end of 2021, when the full $15 an hour minimum wage we put in place, over that period, we would need to be offsetting up to the maximum would be $2 million. As I recall, I think it's about $2 million. So we've looked at it in the initial years with the increases. It would not have that large of an impact, again, because we have so many employees now who already make above what that minimum would be. So we're really just looking at our full-time workforce that's not at minimum wage, and then our summer youth employment program. And again, in looking at where there are federal dollars that are available for that, we're able to offset more of that increase with the federal dollars that we get.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Because these are for income eligible young people.
Thank you for clarifying. That was a big number.
Yeah, it's not $2 million in the first year. No. That's by 2021.
I know we have a long night ahead of us. I will stop there. I just want to say there's not a day that goes by that we don't have conversations up here regarding this need for this bridge dollars and the predicament that Albany is in. As I appreciate that you pointed out that this is decades in the making, and we are trying to get on top of it. Look forward to working with you on both sides, the revenue, the creative solutions on the revenue, and on any other reductions and savings that you can propose. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Marchione?
Thank you. Mayor, just a couple of follow-up questions. You said that poverty is 26% in Albany.
It's approaching 26%. We're at, I think, 24.5%.
Do you have any idea what the poverty level is with single mothers?
A large portion of our people who are living in poverty are single head of households. I don't have that exact number. I do believe that the Census Bureau does have that information.
The reason I ask is that I got some information on my own district the other day, and the percentages are staggering. And in Washington County is almost up to 50% poverty of single households with children. So much so that I've called a meeting a variety of stakeholders from throughout my district to look at that, to see if there isn't something that can be done to help head of households, mostly moms, and that have children. Isn't there something that we can do special to assist them? So I just wondered if you knew. I didn't know what your number was, but in my districts, even Saratoga, Troy, Rensselaer County, the numbers are very, very high. Columbia as well. So
And
I think if we can zero in a little bit, perhaps we can try to help that group of people. And I don't mean with handouts, I mean with hand-ups to assist them.
And I think that one of the things that I've talked to the hospitals about in the city of Albany and other large employers is looking at their shifts and looking at transportation issues to see whether or not there are adjustments that can be made to accommodate what are, a lot of single heads of household who are juggling childcare issues and schedules that really preclude them from being able to maybe work full-time, as many hours as they want to work, or access the workplace at all. And I think that there is an interest in doing that, and if we can do that at a regional level, I think that it's another great example of how this region is coming together.
Also, you mentioned that you have 13 and 14-year-olds that you pay
14 and 15, sorry.
$6.75.
Yeah, I believe it's $6.75. We raised it last year.
How do you pay under the minimum?
Because they are under the age of 16 and because of the type of program that it is. So they don't have to be paid minimum wage. And we've debated that. It's
child labor.
It's a challenge. But they are, most of them are assigned to work sites where they really are learning about working and learning about what is expected of them in a workplace. Many of the opportunities that we provide to young people are really educational opportunities in the form of a job. So for some of our young people, we're really encouraging them and incentivizing them to focus on their academic skills, focus on seeing themselves as successful, and I think that it's critically important to make that investment, particularly in young people who don't have the opportunities that maybe exist in other wealthier communities.
I agree with you. I mean, I come from Half Moon. We've had a youth program for 13 and 14-year-olds for years. I mean, when I was supervisor 30 years ago. I agree with you. I think it's a tremendous start for youth, but we always paid minimum wage. That's why I wondered how you were doing that. But it is true, and I look at minimum wage as that's the beginning of their career as they're unskilled and learning the right things to do in the workforce. And that's why I see the $9 going to $15 almost to me would preclude your program. As you said earlier, you're looking to see whether you can afford it now. Add that extra $6 an hour onto that program. And I worry that programs that are so good will not be in existence anymore.
Yes, certainly if we had to pay that to 14 and 15-year-olds, it would be very difficult for us to continue to serve the number of children that we serve.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Next, the Honorable Lovely Warren, Mayor of the City of Rochester.